Pop quiz. Which legendary Pokemon have genders? Latios and Latios, right? Obviously. Sure. Heatran, maybe. Cresselia? Few others here and there, I get ya. What about Zacian and Zamazenta? Solgaleo and Lunala? Well, they're listed as genderless, aren't they? So why am I implying they have genders? Well, plenty of legendary Pokemon are NB icons, love them for that. But there are quite a few legendary Pokemon with genders in the lore, even though the game still marks them as genderless. One thing to note, I am referring to the mainline games specifically. I don't care if Mystery Dungeon or the anime or whatever genders a Pokemon. I know in Pokopia literally every Pokemon uses they, them. That's awesome. I'm only looking at Game Freak's original vision for the mainline games though. Now, with that out of the way, let's establish every legendary and mythical Pokemon. There sure are a lot of them. Articuno, Zapdos, Moltres, Mew, Mewtwo, Entei, Raikou, Suicune, Ho-Oh, Lugia, Celebi, Groudon, Kyogre, Rayquaza, Latios, Latios, Regirock, Regice, Registeel, Jirachi, Deoxys, Uxie, Mesprit, Azelf, Dialga, Palkia, Giratina, Heatran, Cresselia, Regigigas, Manphy, Darkrai, Shaman, Arceus. Fiona's arguable if you want to include it. Victini, Tornadus, Thundurus, Landorus, Zekrom, Reshiram, Kyurem, Cobalion, Terrakion, Virizion, Keldeo, Meloetta, Genesect, Xerneas, Evoltos, Zygarde, Hoopa, Diancie, Volcanion, Tapu Koko, Tapu Lele, Tapu Bulu, Tapu Fini, Cosmog, Cosmo, Solgaleo, Lunala, Necrozma, Marshadow, Magearna, Zeraora, Typenol, Silvally. I've seen some people count the Ultra Beasts, but I don't, so not going to include them this time, although there is a fun little thing about them, which I will cycle back to. Meltan, Melmetal, Zacian, Zamazenta, Eternatus, Cubfu, Urshifu, Regidrago, Regieleki, Calyrex, Glastrier, Spectrier, Zarude, Enamorus, Chiyu, Tinglu, Chiampao, Wochien, Koraidon, Miraidon, Ogerpon, Okidoki, Monkeydory, Pheasantipity, Terrapagos, and Pecharunt. Shockingly, the games don't consider the Paradox legendaries to be actual legendaries. I still think that's weird, but what are you gonna do? Now, let it be known, I did write out all of these legendary names from memory. Now, let's break these up into generations to make it easier. Once that's done, I will show 3 categories: genderless, gendered in game, and gendered in the lore. For Generation 1, on the surface, everything should be genderless. Articuno, Zapdos, Moltres, Mewtwo, and Mew have no lore regarding their genders whatsoever. However, the fact that Mew gave birth to Mewtwo is interesting. That would imply at least one gendered Mew exists. Now, not necessarily a female Mew, but it's something. They also kind of retcon this with Let's Go, where they actively cut the line saying Mew gave birth, so who knows what we're supposed to believe. Either way, I would put all 5 Generation 1 Pokemon in the genderless category. Likewise, Generation 2 doesn't really change anything. Lugia and Ho-Oh don't have genders, and while it's possible Entei, Raikou, and Suicune did before they perished, we just don't have enough information to know for sure. Celebi, likewise, is not gendered in the mainline games. I know it would be so easy to count the Mystery Dungeon shiny Celebi. She's canonically female, but that's not part of Game Freak's original vision, so I'm not gonna. Now, this would be a pretty boring video if it just was going through every generation and saying, oh, genderless, moving on. So the good news is Generation 3 is where things get interesting. We have the introduction of Latios, the first male legendary, and Latios, the first female legendary. I'm not sure it would make sense for the other Hoenn legendaries to have genders anyway. Regirock, Regice, and Registeel are all ancient golems, and Groudon, Kyogre, and Rayquaza are all deities. Hi everyone, this is Luna from editing. I just want to add a small note. I was looking back over the video and I noticed with Groudon, Kyogre, and Rayquaza, as well as the golems I mentioned they're from Judaism and didn't elaborate, and I did actually forget Groudon, Kyogre, and Rayquaza specifically are based on the Tanakh as it is. It's known to most people as the Old Testament. It's not just the first 5 books of the Torah. So I just wanted to mention they're originally written in Hebrew, and Hebrew is a gendered language. So I'm going to put some screenshots up so you can see But Groudon and Kyogre are based on Behemoth and Leviathan, respectively, and they do have male pronouns, or not pronouns, but like their verbs are masculine, because again, Hebrew's a gendered language. So that means that they are actually based on someone or something with a gender, which is a category I'll get into later on. Now, as for Z's, which Rayquaza is based on, I do want to note it also has masculine verbs attached to it, but a lot of translations don't really mention it. It's kind of ambiguous how it's written. This is the case with a lot of biblical texts, honestly. It's a little hard to tell what the original Hebrew meant. I am lumping in Rayquaza with Groudon and Kyogre because of that, but if you wanted to argue otherwise, that there's just not enough information to say for sure, then power to you. I am using my best judgment here to say that I think Rayquaza is still, I think the Z specifically is still gendered the way Behemoth and Leviathan are. Alright, back to the video now. You'll see this reflected in the final tier list at the end. Thank you! Jirachi and Deoxys are a little more interesting, though. Jirachi doesn't have a gender in the games, but does in Mystery Dungeon. Again, that doesn't count, I just think it's cool. Deoxys, likewise, does not have a gender, and its lore doesn't really open the opportunity for it to. It's a mutated virus after all. How would that be gendered? Is COVID gendered? With that said, its Fire Red Dex entry does tell us something interesting. The Dex says, this Deoxys has transformed into its aggressive guise. It can fool enemies by altering its appearance. Keywords, this Deoxys. That implies there is more than one, which no other Dex entry for it does. And if there are more Deoxys, Deoxy, it's entirely possible there's an entire society of mutated space viruses, complete with their own genders. Hopefully there's no Deoxys patriarchy over there, am I right? Still, without more info, Deoxys has to go into the genderless category. Generation 4 is when Game Freak starts going wild with legendaries, so I'm going to gloss over the ones with no info. Cool? Cool. Dialga, Palkia, Regigigas, Uxie, Mesprit, Azelf, Manphy, Fiona, and Shaman are all genderless. I'm sure someone could figure something out for Shaman because of Gracidea flower biology or something, but I am not that someone. So what's that leave? Well, good news. Heatran and Cresselia have in-game genders and can join Latios and Latios. Not so lonely over there anymore, huh? Darkrai, Giratina, and Arceus are all interesting. I know that the official English pronunciation is Arceus, and I could be one of those pedants who says, well, you know, in Japanese it's Arceus, but I'm just gonna be honest. Growing up, I always called it Arceus, so I'm still gonna. I'm not British. Darkrai is Cresselia's opposite, and the two are often portrayed as rivals, for good reason. Once you catch your Darkrai, you hear a voice, almost certainly from Arceus. Darkrai, your power is strong. Though you don't will it, you make people and Pokemon around you see terrible nightmares. That is why you came here. New Moon Island. There is no one but you here. There is no one that can be drawn into your nightmare. If anyone were to fall into a nightmare, the Full Moon Island is close by. This voice could easily talk to you, the player, but it addresses Darkrai directly, which implies Darkrai has human-level intelligence. And since Darkrai is Cresselia's opposite, then you'd expect that means Darkrai is male, right? Well, we don't know. Darkrai is referred to more than most mythical Pokemon, but it's never given a gender or any pronouns outside the Pokédex's universal it. Giratina and Arceus are both genderless in the lore as well. Arceus is given its pronouns by Volo in Legends Arceus, and Giratina is also never given male or female pronouns. But what's interesting about them is they're based on Satan and the Christian god respectively, and they're both male as far as I'm aware. So obviously that means Game Freak has always been woke, end of story. Now in Generation 5... Why did I write that joke? That doesn't even make sense. Okay, in Generation 5, Thundurus, Tornadus, and Landorus are all male. Easy. But Cobalion, Terrakion, Virizion, and Keldeo are based on the 4 main characters from the 3 Musketeers, who are all men. So naturally, that means they're all still genderless, of course. No other legendaries or mythicals in Generation 5 have genders either. I know Meloetta looks pretty feminine, but it's not polite to assume. Special note goes to Genesect, Genesect, I don't know, I alternate honestly. We never see the original Pokemon it's based on, so it very well could have had a gender at one point, but in its current form as is, nope. No legendary or mythical Pokemon in Generation 6 are gendered. Easy! Well, not so much. Diancie, which is a mutation of the genderless Carbink, is also naturally genderless, right? You would think so, but thanks to Legend ZA, we have other information. Mega Diancie's Dex entry says, quote, "This Pokemon is also known as the Royal Pink Princess." Sure, Adventure Time fans will tell you boys can be princesses, but for all intents and purposes, I do think it's safe to toss Diancie into the gendered in the lore category. You may be the first Pokemon in there, Diancie, but you sure won't be the last. Or you can just assume that only Mega Diancie is gendered, so that's a Pokemon whose literal Mega ability is estrogen, and that's awesome too. Generation 7 gives us 4 whole gendered legendaries. The guardian deities, Tapu Koko, Tapu Lele, Tapu Bulu, and Tapu Fini, are not those 4. They are all genderless. Yes, I know some of them look more masculine or feminine, but you know what they say about assuming. Solgaleo and Lunala are male and female respectively according to their Gen 7 Dex entries. That also retroactively makes Cosmog and Cosmoem gendered in the lore. Still not in-game for some reason. Type Null, Silvally, Necrozma, Marshadow, Zeraora, Magearna, Melton, and Melmetal are all genderless. Generation 8 is one of my favorites when it comes to this. I think it's extremely interesting. The most gendered legendaries and mythical Pokemon yet come from Gen 8. Eternatus, Glastrier, Regieleki, and Regidrago are the only legendaries we can confidently say are genderless this time around. I'm also going to toss Spectre in that pile, but Bulbapedia does note it may be based on a mare, which is a female horse, so you can make that argument if you want. That leaves Zacian, Zamazenta, Kubfu, Urshifu, Calyrex, Enamorus, and Zarude. Good news, all 7 of them have genders. Kubfu, Urshifu, and Enamorus are the easiest ones, as they have in-game genders. Calyrex is gendered in the lore because it's explicitly referred to as a king. Could Calyrex be a girl king? Sure, that'd be cool, but that's not enough information to say that. This brings us to Zacian and Zamazenta. Zacian is referred to as Zamazenta's elder sister in the Generation 8 Pokédex. Easy. Well, what about Zamazenta, you asked? Okay, I kind of fibbed a little bit. Zamazenta is never given a gender even in the Dex entries. But I mean, come on! If Zacian is gendered, and they're siblings, shouldn't Zamazenta be too? Yeah, it sucks, but I'm still tossing Zamazenta in the genderless pile. What about Zarude, you ask? Now, I know you didn't ask. No one even remembers Zarude, except I do. And I'll tell you. Zarude is a species that lives in a pack. That's not enough to tell us, sure. But do you remember the Dada Zarude, which is only available in mainline games as a distribution? Well, despite being a movie tie-in, it is a canon mainline male Zarude. It is in the mainline games. And that means Zarude, despite being genderless in-game, is gendered in the lore. Generation 9 is our final generation as of time of writing and recording, and it's another easy one. The Treasures of Ruin are personified emotions and thus genderless. Likewise, Koraidon and Miraidon are only ever referred to as beasts. We know they are connected to Cyclizar, which has a gender, but there's nothing more to them. Except I lied! Again! Miraidon and Koraidon both have Paradox Pokemon monikers, even though they have different names. Miraidon is Iron Serpent, whereas Koraidon is Winged King. Yeah, King. Koraidon's a guy. Moving on to the DLC, all 3 members of the Lousy 3 are male, and Ogerpon is female. Terapagos can be either male or female, but the Terapagos in the Indigo Disc specifically is always male. That leaves us with Pecharunt. Because Game Freak hates us, we had to end on another tricky one. Petulant is based on Momotaro, who's male, but Petulant is genderless in-game and never given a gender in the lore, despite leading the Lousy Three, who are all male. To make things even more confusing, we are shown a depiction of Petulant as a child, but we cannot make out what that child's gender is. If we follow the rules I set for Arceus and Giratina... I was waiting for that slip to happen. If we follow the rules I set for Arceus and Giratina, then we have to toss Petulant into the genderless category. But what if I added a fourth category for genderless, but based on someone with a gender? Well, let's sum it all up and see where everything falls. Most of the legendaries and mythicals are genderless, and I don't want to read them all again, but you get the picture. Giratina, Arceus, Cobalion, Terrakion, Virizion, Keldeo, possibly Spectrier, and Petulant are all genderless, but based on someone or something with a gender. Latios, Latios, Heatran, Cresselia, Thundurus, Tornadus, Landorus, Enamorus, Kevfu, Urshifu, Okidoki, Munkidori, Pheasantipity, Ogerpon, and Terrapagos are all gendered in-game. And finally, Diancie, Cosmog, Cosmoem, Solgaleo, Lunala, Zacian, Calyrex, Zarude, and Koraidon are all gendered in the lore, but not in-game. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you found something informative out of this. I was gonna say valuable, sure, that too. I do have more video essays in the pipeline, including another one on Pokemon, specifically over how Mewtwo's origin has changed over the years. So I hope you stick around for those. Thank you!